The day my parents kicked me out, I was 19, drunk on cheap vodka and laughing like a hyena at my own bad jokes in their pristine living room. Mom's face was a storm cloud, Dad's a stone wall, and they both agreed I was the family fool who'd never amount to anything. By midnight, I was on the curb with a duffel bag, their words ringing in my ears. "You're a disgrace, Ethan," and we're done. I'd always been the screw-up, the kid who flunked math, crashed the family car, and thought sneaking out to parties was a personality trait. My older sister, Chaclaire, was the golden child, straight A's, law school bound, the daughter who made Mom's eyes shine with pride. Me, I was the one who made Dad's jaw clench and Mom's prayers desperate. They'd spent years bailing me out of detentions, debts, and dumb decisions until that night when their patience snapped like a brittle twig. I didn't blame them then. I was a mess, a walking disaster who thought life was a game I could cheat. But being cut off, disowned, left with nothing but a bag of clothes and a bruised ego that hurt deeper than I could admit. I spent the first night on a park bench, the cold biting my skin, my breath fogging in the February air. I wasn't laughing anymore. The world felt like it had turned its back on me, just like my parents had. I could have called friends, but pride or shame kept my phone in my pocket. I was alone, and for the first time, I felt the weight of it. What do you do when the people who are supposed to love you most decide you're not worth keeping? You either break or build. I chose to build, though I didn't know it then. The next morning, I pawned my watch, a high school graduation gift from Dad, engraved with "To Ethan," with hope. The irony stung, but the $50 it fetched bought me a week at a rundown motel and a burger that tasted like survival. I got a job washing dishes at a greasy diner, the kind where the coffee's bitter and the tips are worse. My hands cracked from the hot water, my back ached from standing, but every dollar I earned felt like a brick in a new foundation. I wasn't the family fool anymore. I was Ethan, the guy who showed up, worked hard, and kept his head down. Months turned into years. I moved up from dishwasher to waiter, then to manager. The diner's owner, a gruff man named Tony, saw something in me, maybe the hunger in my eyes, maybe the way I never called in sick. He taught me the business, from balancing books to charming suppliers. By 23, I was running the place. By 25, I'd saved enough to buy a failing cafe across town. I turned it around, not because I was a genius, but because I worked like my life depended on it. Failure wasn't an option. I'd already tasted it when my family threw me out. The cafe became a local hit. People loved the vibe, warm lighting, fresh pastries, coffee that didn't taste like regret. I opened a second location, then a third. By 28, I was Ethan Caldwell, the guy who owned a chain of cafes, who spoke at small business conferences, who had a condo with a view of the city skyline. I'd leveled up, not just with money, but with purpose. I wasn't that reckless kid anymore. I was someone who'd learned to stand on his own, who'd turned pain into power. Then the letter came. It was a crisp autumn day, the kind where the air smells like change. I was at my flagship cafe, checking inventory, when the mail arrived. The envelope had Mom's handwriting, elegant and precise, like everything about her. My heart did a weird flip, part hope, part dread. I hadn't heard from them in nearly a decade, not since that night on the curb. I tore it open, expecting an apology, maybe a plea to reconnect. Instead, it was a sob story. Dad's business had tanked, their savings were gone, and they were facing foreclosure. They'd heard about my success, small world, I guess, and now they needed help. "We're family. Ethan," Mom wrote, "we know we hurt you, but we're so proud of you now. Can you help us?" Proud of me now, the words burned. They weren't proud when I was scraping by, when I was scrubbing dishes until my fingers bled. They weren't proud when I was rebuilding myself from nothing. But now, with my name in local papers and money in the bank, I was their son again. I crumpled the letter, my chest tight with a rage I hadn't felt in years. Part of me wanted to shred it, to send it back with a single word. No, But another part, the part that still remembered Mom's hugs, Dad's rare smiles, hesitated. They were my parents. Didn't I owe them something? I didn't reply right away. I couldn't. Instead, I called Claire. We'd kept in touch, though it was strained. She'd never cut me off like they had, but she'd also never stood up for me. Over coffee, she looked older, her law school polish dulled by stress. They're desperate. Ethan, she said, her voice soft but urgent. They made mistakes, but they're your family. You've done so well. Can't you forgive them? Her eyes pleaded, but I saw something else in them, guilt. Maybe for staying their golden child while I was cast out. Forgiveness sounded noble, but it wasn't that simple. I'd spent years bearing the pain of their rejection, building a life that proved them wrong. Now they wanted a piece of it, like my success was theirs to claim. I told Claire I'd think about it, but inside I was torn. Part of me wanted to help, to be the bigger person. Another part wanted them to feel the sting of being cut off. The way I had, days turned into weeks. I couldn't stop thinking about that letter. I'd drive past my old neighborhood, where the house I grew up in now had a for sale sign. I'd see Mom's face in my mind, hear Dad's voice calling me a disgrace. But I also remembered the good times Christmas mornings. Dad teaching me to ride a bike, Mom baking my favorite cookies. Those memories didn't erase the hurt, but they complicated it. I wasn't just angry, I was grieving the family we could have been. One night I sat down with a whiskey and wrote a response. Not to Mom and Dad, but to myself. I poured out everything: the betrayal, the loneliness, the pride in what I'd built. Writing it down made it real, made me see I wasn't just the family fool anymore. I was a man who'd earned his place in the world. But I also realized something else: holding on to anger was like carrying a weight I didn't need. It wasn't about them deserving my help. It was about me being free. I didn't send them money. Instead, I sent a letter. I told them I'd pay off their mortgage, but not because they were proud of me now. I'd do it because I wasn't them. I wouldn't turn my back on family, even when it hurt. But I set conditions: they'd meet me, face to face, and we'd talk. Not about money, but about everything: why they gave up on me, why they thought I was only worth loving when I had something to offer. The meeting was at my cafe, neutral ground. Mom looked frail, Dad defeated. They apologized, tears in their eyes. But their words felt rehearsed, like they were saying what they thought I wanted to hear. I didn't let them off easy. I told them how it felt to be thrown out, to rebuild without them, to hear from them only when they needed something. Mom sobbed. Dad stared at the floor. But I kept going. I needed them to understand, not just to feel bad. When I finished, there was silence. Then Dad spoke, his voice rough. We were wrong, Ethan. We thought tough love would fix you, but we broke something instead. Mom reached for my hand, and I let her take it, though it felt foreign. They didn't ask for forgiveness outright, but I saw it in their eyes, a hope that we could start over. I paid off their mortgage, not all at once, but in installments, enough to keep them afloat, but not enough to let them forget. We started talking, slowly, awkwardly. It wasn't a fairy tale reunion. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight, and love doesn't erase scars. But we were trying, and that was something. Looking back, I don't know if I did the right thing. Part of me still wonders if I should have let them face the consequences. If helping them was weakness or strength. I'd built a life without them, proved I didn't need their approval. But family isn't just about who's right or wrong. It's about the messy, painful choice to keep the door open, even a crack. I'm not the fool anymore, but I'm still their son, and that's a truth I can't outrun. What do you think? Was Ethan right to help his parents after they cut him off? Or should he have let them face the consequences of their actions? Share your thoughts. There's no right answer, just different shades of human. And